Hi everyone, welcome to Birthing at Home, a podcast. I'm Elsie, your host. I've had 2 home births in April 2020 and in June 2023. I'm a mental health nurse and an ex-student midwife that has a strong passion for birth and supporting women. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land I'm recording on in Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. I would also like to acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been birthing at home on country for tens of thousands of years prior to the British invasion and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded.
Welcome to a very special episode, the first of hopefully many. In this episode, we hear from Trent, a first-time dad from Western Australia, a lover of martial arts, and now a home birth advocate. I really appreciated Trent's authenticity and am confident that others will be able to relate to what he spoke about. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please share the podcast, and it would mean so much if you can review or rate it too. Let's go. Welcome, Trent, to the Birthing at Home, a podcast.
Oh, thanks, Elsie. I'm really excited to have a little bit of a chat today.
Yeah, so you're actually joining me from Perth, is that correct?
Yeah. Born and bred.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm in Melbourne, you're in Perth, so we're making it work on the Sunday evening, night with the time difference. So I'm also very excited that you've reached out to the post that I put on Instagram searching for partners to share their birth at home stories. So obviously we just had a chat, Trent and I, about how it's such a missing thing in the birth world, let alone the birthing at home world. So Trent, maybe if you want to just give me a little rundown of like who you are, who's in your family, what you do for work kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah, so my name's Trent. I live in West Australia. We just had our firstborn son and my partner, Alaura, and I. It was a home birth. Look, a little bit about us. You know, we're in our 30s, pretty run-of-the-mill couple. I like to spend my time doing martial arts and invest a lot of my energy into that. And Alaura is a fairly artsy graphic designer type. And yeah, we're fairly run-of-the-mill. There was nothing too woo-woo about us that sort of pushed us towards home birthing. So yeah, I'm really excited to speak about it just from a, just everyday Aussie bloke point of view.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me, did Alaura, was she the one that suggested birthing, like home birth to you, or did you know about it before, or?
No, I didn't even know it was a thing. So, and I think it was Alaura was aware of it. Yeah. But it, like when we conceived and Alaura was pregnant and went to get the check with the GP, the first question was, private or public? Like it wasn't even brought up to do home birthing. And we were going down the private route and then realized that you don't get a lot for your money in a way. And then Alaura just started looking at other things and she was like, oh, like home birthing's a thing and it's covered by public health. And this actually sounds pretty damn cool. Yeah. So she presented to me, but my first thoughts were like, why would you do this? Birthing a medical procedure, like what would be the reason at all to do this? Why would you bring this risk on?
Yeah. So your kind of perception of birth was rather that it, happened in hospitals and perhaps that it was quite risky and you needed like the support of like doctors and like in case something bad happens kind of thing. Would you agree with that? Yeah,
that's just the everyday reasoning that people have around it, and that was mine as well.
Yeah. So you went to the GP. The GP kind of said this or that, and then Alaura, through her own kind of research, discovered, was it through the hospital, the home birth program?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. The public midwife program.
Yeah, cool. And so how did you connect into that? Is that like something that you just express your interest in? Like, do you have to contact them and say, hey, I want to be a part of it, or?
Honestly, I can't really speak too much to that. Alaura took a lot of agency over that. And,
yeah, fair enough.
And explored all of that and reached out herself.
Yeah.
I can't actually speak to how the process works. But my understanding is it's a public health offering over here. It's not a private health like exercise.
Yeah, like anybody can access it. Yeah. Amazing. And so, thinking about birth and physiology and whatnot, we already said that, that it can be perceived quite quickly as something that's quite risky. Had you ever thought, like, before, I'm just like very curious, had you ever thought, before hospitals were around and stuff, like how the experience was for women and their partners, before we had, emergency C-sections and things like that?
I have to be honest, and I feel like this is probably the experience of most dudes. I don't think about it like ever in my life. Like it was never in my sphere, in my world, like pregnancy and birthing. It like never entered my mind until Alaura got pregnant, even though we were planning like to start a family for over a year and trying. And it wasn't until it actually happened that any level of thought came into it. It's just, it's not my world, Yeah.
And so when, Alaura says, oh, we can actually get into this program, and you were like, oh, like, why would you do that? What was the kind of process to, overcome those immediate thoughts on home birth?
So what sold it to me, and like I'm sure with your podcast you cover all this stuff, I don't need to go into it, but was the benefits from the hormonal benefits from doing it physiologically. I have a casual interest in like hormones and biohacking and things like that, and like listen to stuff like the Human podcast and those things. So I have like a casual interest in it. So when Alaura started to explain that side of it to me, that was the seller, and I think that was the way to do it for me. Not a like, oh well, why not? More of a, this is why. And that was what led me more into it. And I was interested and I was keen to hear more. And it wasn't a hard sell after that point. I think if you go on a different route, and it's like, oh, well, I want to do it this way because it would be nice. And I think that's like the reservation for all men. It's like, yeah, cool, I'm glad it would be nice, but like it's my job and my role to like protect you and this baby. And what I've been told my whole life is that it needs to be done in hospital. So that's the way it's going to be, So it was better to learn the reasons why rather than reasons and why not.
So I kind of briefly studied midwifery at uni, and I remember that we learnt how at some point in history, and I guess it's kind of still reflected in the practices of I guess more generally hospital based birth and labor experiences, is trying to make the woman seem like a machine. And so you can mess around, you can change the bolts and screws and things of the woman, and you do this and do that and she will just have the baby. But it's actually, you're quite right, it's it's about the hormones, and it's so primal, and it's something that you don't really think about. Like when you're stressed and things like that, you don't think about, okay, well, what's happened? Like most people, I think, don't immediately think, okay, well, what's actually happening on a physiological hormonal level for me to feel stressed? Why is my heart racing? What is, happening in my body? And like with birth, you do actually have to have an understanding, however brief that understanding is, to be able to appreciate that, at home you're going to be more relaxed. you're going to be in the space that you're allowed to, have the noises and smells. And like I've had a couple of women come on the podcast and kind of describe the experiences of, labor and birth at home. It's kind of like a cat. Like a cat's not going to go give birth on a highway. Like they're going to go and find, this dark spot under the house or like in a cupboard somewhere, I don't know, to give birth. And like in so many ways, like that's what the human experience is kind of meant to be built up like as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's very hard as a man to understand that. And I don't think I fully understood it until I saw it firsthand. Yeah. And it was like really in that moment, like at birthing at home, like I could truly like see the difference in experience for like a man and woman or masculine and feminine, however you want to like word it. And it was like, I don't know how to like articulate this properly, like, but it was like truly like woman's business. Like and you have to like let it be, and you have to let them go through like the ups and downs of it, and you won't understand it. Because if it were like 100% left up to me, of course I'm going to get in there and start fiddling because I hear her in pain. And and I see, oh, the baby's, he's in a certain position, he's not out yet. It's like, as a dude, I'm just like, just give me a knife and I'll cut her open, pull her out and stitch her up. Yeah. And it's done. Like, why are we messing around? But when you just watch it happen, it's like, so watch it and let it happen. It's so beautiful. And I think, as a man, it's very hard to grasp that concept of like, they need to like ride this incredible wave, and it's so beautiful when it's done, and the baby's health is so much better when it's done. It's very hard to explain. I think you have to see it, but you also have to let go and be prepared to go, like, this isn't our realm as men. Like, and I'm not like a very new agey, like feministy type. I'm just like a dude, and I'm saying as a dude, this is woman's business. Like, stay the fuck out of it.
Yeah. That's very cool. Did you have like any specific fears or, concerns about birth in general, or like birthing specifically at home, or, things like that?
Not once the benefits were explained to me. After that point, I started to let go, and I feel like it's like a cop-out answer, but if we're talking to this about like to the average dude's perspective, like just stop overthinking it. It just, like, that's how I kind of dealt with it. I was like, okay, I understand the benefits. Yes, it was explained to me that what do you think they did before hospitals? How do you think we all got to this point without them? This is natural. There are checks with modern medicine that can make sure there's no risk of doing it at home. So like, just step away from the driver's seat. This isn't your vehicle to drive at this point. Like, your job comes after this. But this is like the mother's world and her realm and her like responsibility. Ultimately, it's like her task and all the protection stuff and providing that comes after. But this is the mother's journey. Stay the fuck out of it.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you've seen like Hamish Blake from Hamish and Andy. He kind of was on like some podcast or his own podcast or something, and he was describing the experience of, being a male presence in, the birth space with the birth of one of his children. And he was, describing it as like, like you end up having to protect the cave. You're not trying to protect the woman so much because she has to go off and fight her own battle, and you can't be there for that battle. You just have to protect the entrance to the cave kind of thing. Like, and that is your job. And I thought that was, when I have listened to it, I thought, that's actually a pretty good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, and if I could speak to this, it was something that I noticed. I didn't know anyone in my circle that had home birth, right? And a lot of the questions from the men were, and it's all well intended, but just like not as informed, but very well intended, were things like, it's not about the experience, it's about getting the baby home, the baby and the mum home safely. It's not about the experience. Or doesn't your partner know she doesn't get a gold star for doing it without drugs? And things like genuine concern, like, why would you do this? Like, people were like pulling me aside, like, trying to tell me I'm making a mistake by doing this at home. Yeah. But I really felt like doing it at home gave me so much more agency over the experience, in a way that, like, it was in my house and no one was in that room that I didn't allow in. It wasn't like in a hospital and there's shift changes, there's people I've never met, someone new coming in. It was like, no, this is like my space and no one has entered through these doors that I haven't allowed in. And at any time, I can get rid of people, I can bring in new people, I can pull someone aside and ask them what's going on. I would definitely recommend a doula to anyone that's doing this. Like, those women are like amazing. And I just felt like I had so much more agency over it being in my house. And I was even able to, like, after the birth, like immediately after, my best friend was there. And there was like an extra support for me in a way that, we like cried and embraced and then had like a whiskey, that's like old school shit. And I was like, this is so much more under my control. And especially once you learn some of the things that can happen in hospitals that you may be coerced into doing, and you have to be switched on to say, not this or why this, which I'm sure you talk about a lot on your podcast. That can happen in the hospitals. Like, with that being taken away and not being as guarded through the process, it just, I couldn't possibly imagine doing it in a hospital. I would actually feel less safe and less in control doing it in a hospital. And that was something a lot of people had said to me, oh, you're useless through the process. These people who've had, traditional hospital births, you'll never feel more useless in your life. And I can imagine that in a hospital when everyone else has got something to do with it except for you. You might be holding a hand a little bit, but it certainly didn't feel that way in the home. I felt like I was, and again, we said before we went on, I waffle a bit, so stop me if I keep going.
No, that's all right.
But it felt like at times like we were in medieval times and I was the king, and like all these midwives were like little witches that were like doing the real work, and I was like the king of the castle, just standing over, watching, waiting for the heir to my throne to be born and handed to me. It was amazing.
But that's like so empowering, and I think it's really discounted. Like you say that, you don't have any control. You're like just an accessory. Like whatever. Like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I think it's quite cool that this is your first baby as well, because I too have had 2 home births, my first baby and my second baby. Thanks. And it's quite unusual to hear first-time parents having home births. You most often hear women and their partners who have had, sometimes you hear they've had okay experiences where, things weren't perfect, but healthy mum, healthy baby kind of thing. But it's been enough to be like, well, actually, is there a better way that this could be done? And then you've also got, people that have had extremely traumatizing experiences and, where the mum has been rushed off to have some emergency surgery or something really significant has happened during the whole labor process, and for the husband, partner, whatever, to just be a bystander, that can be very traumatizing too. And it is the woman going through the birth, but you can be traumatized just as easily. Like it's somebody that you love. It's a child, like your child, like you're so invested in this process. And, like why wouldn't you want to feel empowered and feel like you do have, like you say, agency over the decisions and the environment for your partner and for your baby? Like that, it's like a no-brainer to me, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just feel like it is an awareness and education thing.
Yeah. And I guess also
how we get there, I don't know.
I don't know either. I do really respect though that, men in the birth space, I guess throughout history, it has been women's business. And, my understanding is that, it would, a woman would go into labor and she would have female women around her to support her, and they might go to a special location or something to give birth, and the men would be left out in that way. But in more recent times, it was the men weren't allowed in the labor ward, and it was still women's business, but it was a lot less I guess spiritual. And so it's only now that I remember going to an antenatal class with my first son, and me and my husband sat in the circle, whatever you do at antenatal classes. And one of the dads was like, "Oh, am I allowed to be in the room when she's giving birth?" And I was just shocked that there must be partners that don't know that not only can they be present, but they can be an actual active support person for their partner. Like that's possible, that's allowed, that's encouraged. Like there's lots of benefits with that. So I think, we have a long way to go, but I guess that's why I'm hoping sharing some stories from partners' perspectives might unveil something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can speak to like how it works sort of as a support person for myself in the home birth. And it was like a very interesting experience. And I really felt like we had like a team, and I would definitely say like to the men, like, make sure you're cool with the doula and the midwife, like meet them. And if you're uncomfortable with them, then like veto them, find ones that you do like, because like you guys are going to make up like a team. And it flowed, like, just without even talking about it, just on the day, everything just flowed so well, like between us coming in and out. Like when I was in that main support role, like the doula was taking a step back, and she was fantastic, making drinks and cups of teas and making sure everyone's comfortable. And like we got like, try this if you want, if anyone's listening, but like we got real like primal with, like I was roaring along with Alaura. She was like going through contraction, she's screaming, I'm just screaming with her because it felt right, and like holding, like squeezing each other's hands, and then I would just like fade out, and then the doula would come in and just massage and like, play some sound bowls or whatever felt right at the time, but mainly the massage. That was like those magic hands just seemed to really do the job for Alaura. And then like she would fade out and the midwife would come in and do like seamlessly do the medical side of things without even knowing it's happening. You wouldn't even be aware that, she's putting monitors on and things like that. And it was like we seamlessly all flowed in and out, and it wasn't like as the support person, you're stupidly sitting there just doing massages that you don't know. Like I would have felt stupid being like, oh, I'm stroking you and you're screaming at me and this is doing nothing. Yeah. But like I felt like the doula did a great job of like having those seasoned magical hands to actually do effective pain relief naturally. And then I was the more like internal strength side of it. And it was a team, I feel like that was the most important part of it is again, it's that women's business thing, like those doulas are magic, let them bring the magic and you just support like from an emotional internal strength side.
Yeah. And I guess that's something that's also not talked about, at least from, what I've heard is like there's lots and lots of evidence about continuity of care being amazing for women, but it's not really talked about much that the benefit it can have for the partner, and that's like so right. Like, in a hospital setting, generally, you generally would have, people might be coming in and out that you've never met before. The shift might end. A new midwife's going to come in. It's going to be a new midwife doing the massage, somebody that you've never met, she's never met, you've never met. Like developing that trust and rapport is so essential for ultimately keeping the environment feeling safe and supportive and making it right so that labor can happen in the way that it's meant to happen, because it's like a protected space. And you just, so the continuity of care is so important.
And I think you are right that it is important, like to men, because, we are talking about like from the male point of view for the birth. Like, so when Alaura started having contractions, they were like super far apart. It was like the beginnings of contractions, like she was nowhere near giving birth, but that's when, for me, things started picking up. Alaura was fine. She was very well informed about the process, and she knew she was hours off anything significant happening at all. But for me, I was like, nah, let's fill up the pool. Let's get going, Yeah. And I was like, let's call the doula. And Alaura was like, you don't need to. There's no need. I said, yeah, but you got to remember, like the doula is like my support person as well. And like right now, I'm getting antsy and I need support. I need this, I will feel so much more comfortable knowing that she's here ready to like jump in. And so we made the call and she came super early. She was amazing. She was there like 5 hours before anything significant happened, and she didn't care. But that gave me such a huge sense of relief, because I think for those 5 hours I would have been really pacing, stressing, topping up the pool every 2 minutes. Yeah. It was totally unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you do any like education or specific things during Alaura's pregnancy to help?
Yeah, so we did the hypnobirthing classes. We did 2 of those. Yeah. And that was good. It validated a lot of our own research, or predominantly Alaura's research into why physiological birth is the way to go. So that was good. It validated the path we'd chosen. And then, watching the videos, I suppose, like that helped to like, I don't know, to see that it's not that scary really. Yeah. But there's a lot to take in. I'll be honest. I feel like there's a lot going on, and I still like now couldn't say like how dilated you need to be at certain points. You do know what I mean? There's a lot of things that refer to body parts I don't have.
Yeah.
And like I might sound a bit doofusy here, but I'm just trying to be as genuine as possible. So
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
other dudes can hear this and be like, oh, cool. I don't know what a labia is or whatever, like that's fine. Like, I think it definitely helped to watch the videos just to know that can be a pretty chill experience.
Yeah.
And, the hypnobirthing, I think the more just the validation than anything else to know that we're going down the right path.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you feel a little bit isolated, I guess, if you're the only one in your circle that is going to be choosing this path? Like, did that feel isolating at all or,
Yeah, it does. It does. Because it's always nice to like talk to people that either have experienced what you're about to go through or are like planning to. And I think it definitely feels a little bit isolating to be the only one going that way.
Yeah.
That has its own difficulties, but it just depends how you take it. You can take it as a fuck you to the world in a way.
Yeah. What do you think was like the most helpful thing in being more confident with supporting Alaura? It sounds like maybe a combination of like the hypnobirthing and the doula, or maybe the doula.
The birthing team for sure.
Yeah.
Like, meeting the midwife and like just like trying to like just genuinely like connect with them and their like values as a person. And like we still catch up with our doula like now, like my son's like 6-7 weeks old, and like she came over the other week, had like dinner, and we're going to go up to her house one day soon. So like we genuinely connected, and I think that was like super important. We also, as part of our birthing team, had one of our friend's daughters. She's 16, but she's super mature and she wants to be a midwife. And we said, well,
wow.
Why don't you come and be like part of the team? And it was it was amazing. Hey, just even to see someone who's like never experienced it before, like just integrate so well with as a support person and so young. It was amazing. And that was beautiful. And like she's my best friend's daughter, so in a way it was like my best mate was there, and it was she was like a surrogate to him for me. It was amazing just having someone that genuinely has a place in our life there as well. I just think the birthing team was what gave me the confidence that we're gonna kick ass at this and do this at home well. And also Alaura put in like a lot of work, like to make sure she was doing everything right the best she could prior to and she was all over everything. She was the nerd in the hypnobirthing class, and the facilitator was like, does anyone know why this? She's like, I know. Like I think that gave me a lot. I had like utmost faith in her, the way she informed herself about everything, and then just the team, and the rest was easy.
Yeah. So you really felt like you were able to develop a sense of trust in Alaura's knowledge and knowledge of her body, and also of the team, that the team would be able to, I guess, answer any questions and concerns that you had, and, I guess ultimately provide support to you when the time came as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. That's amazing. I just have one last question. Is there anything that you would like other partners to know? Anything that, you feel that you really want to say to other partners out there who might be questioning their partner's decision to home birth? Because often in my experience of doing this podcast, the pushback comes from the partners pretty much. It's 99.9% of the time the woman suggesting the home birth, and then the partner is pushing back. So do you have anything that you would like to say to people out there about this whole journey?
Yeah, I would say understand the benefits. Like, the fears are always going to be there. But I would say understand the benefits as to why you're doing this, for the mother's health, for your child's health. You know, as dudes, most of it's tough. We can handle it whichever way it goes. But I would say, like, seriously look at how it benefits them and realize if your intention is to protect and nurture your family, ultimately the right decision is home birth. Like, I think any pushback comes from a very well-intended place of like, well, no, I don't want anything bad to happen.
Yeah.
Well, then if you don't want anything bad to happen, do a fucking home birth.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Oh, I think that's a good way to end. That's like sums it up very well. Yeah, if you don't want something bad to happen. Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, especially if you have a midwife present, the midwife is super trained to detect when something is not, you know, going the way that maybe it should. And the midwife is equipped to, you know, make changes, but is also equipped with the knowledge to transfer into hospital. Like, hospitals do have a place, but definitely not, you know, 90. I'm not sure what the home birth stats in Western Australia are, but in Victoria, I think it's like less than 1% of women give birth at home. I think it's probably very similar in every state, but like, yeah, say it's 1%, 99% of women do not need to be giving birth in a hospital.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Anyway, I could go on, but thank you so much for talking to me tonight. I hope this has helped other partners out there. I hope partners listen to this. I think it will be a really useful resource.
Oh, I'm glad I could speak to my experience. It was heaps of fun.
Yeah, thank you, Trent.
No, thank you.